Maya Patel pulled her worn leather jacket tighter around her shoulders as she peered through the massive telescope at Mountain View Observatory. The autumn night air was crisp, and the stars shimmered with unusual clarity. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, logging the routine stellar observations that had been her nightly routine for the past 3 years. The digital display flickered with incoming data from the radio telescope array. Maya took a sip of her now-cold coffee and squinted at the readings. Something wasn't right. The familiar pattern of stars in the Cassiopeia constellation showed an anomaly, a series of perfectly circular dark spots that shouldn't exist. "Computer, run diagnostic check on the primary sensor array," Maya commanded, expecting to find a technical glitch. The system hummed for a moment before displaying its results, all equipment functioning normally. Maya's heart rate quickened as she initiated a deep space scan of the area. The dark spots were moving, ever so slightly, in a formation that defied natural celestial mechanics. She reached for her phone to call Dr. Thompson, her supervisor, but stopped mid-motion. The last thing she wanted was to sound like an overexcited graduate student crying wolf. Instead, she redirected the observatory's secondary telescopes to focus on the anomaly. The dark spots were growing larger, or perhaps coming closer. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard as she calculated their trajectory. According to her initial computations, whatever these objects were, they would pass behind the moon in approximately 6 hours. The observatory's communication system crackled to life. "Maya, are you seeing this?" It was Dr. Chen from the Beijing Observatory. "We've detected unusual occultations in Cassiopeia. I'm tracking them now," Maya responded, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. "They're moving in a controlled pattern. This isn't natural stellar movement." Over the next hour, observatories across the globe began reporting similar findings. The mysterious objects continued their approach, maintaining perfect formation. Maya coordinated with her international colleagues, collecting data and running analyses. The objects were massive, each one roughly the size of Manhattan. As dawn approached on the East Coast, the objects made their first dramatic move. They emerged from behind the moon, and for the first time, Earth's telescopes could capture clear images. The sight took Maya's breath away. Enormous crystalline ships, their surfaces perfectly smooth and reflective, caught the sun's rays and scattered them in prismatic displays across space. The ships were beautiful, but it was their precision that sent chills down Maya's spine. They moved with purposeful intent, adjusting their positions with impossible accuracy. As they drew closer, Maya noticed something in their movement pattern, a repeated sequence in their trajectories that reminded her of binary code. With trembling fingers, she began plotting each course correction, converting the movements into digital signals. Her computer program worked to decrypt the pattern, and after several tense minutes, a simple message appeared on her screen. "Prepare." Maya stared at the single word, her coffee forgotten, as the rising sun painted the observatory dome in shades of gold. Humanity's first contact wasn't going to be a friendly meeting of civilizations. It was going to be something else entirely. She reached for her phone, knowing that in a few hours, the world as she knew it would change forever. The crystalline ships entered Earth's atmosphere at dawn, their mirror-like surfaces painting the sky in brilliant fragments of light. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka watched from his robotics laboratory in Tokyo as news helicopters broadcast the descent live. His team of researchers stood transfixed by the wall of monitors, each screen showing different angles of the vessels approaching major cities worldwide. "Tanaka-san," his assistant Yuki called out, pointing to their research terminal. "Our quantum sensors are going crazy." The laboratory's experimental equipment, designed to detect subtle changes in electromagnetic fields, was registering unprecedented energy signatures. Before Hiroshi could respond, every digital screen in the laboratory flickered simultaneously. The news broadcasts disappeared, replaced by a simple message in glowing blue text: "Submit or face extinction." The same message appeared on every smartphone, tablet, and computer screen across the globe. Military responses were swift but futile. Hiroshi watched in horror as Japan's most advanced F-35 JSMs rose to meet the alien vessels. The fighter jets froze mid-flight, suspended in an invisible energy field before being gently lowered to the ground. Similar scenes played out worldwide. Every piece of modern military equipment rendered useless by the aliens' mysterious technology. But something caught Hiroshi's attention. In the corner of his lab, an old analog voltmeter continued to swing wildly, unaffected by whatever force was controlling their digital equipment. His eyes darted to the mechanical clock on the wall. It too continued ticking steadily. "Yuki, grab the old oscilloscope from storage," he ordered, his mind racing. While the rest of the world watched their technology fail, Hiroshi began connecting antiquated equipment he'd kept for sentimental reasons. The old oscilloscope, built in the 1960s using purely analog components, displayed clear readings of the alien energy patterns. Across Tokyo, lights began to flicker and fail as the alien ships established their dominance. But in Hiroshi's lab, a discovery was taking shape. He noticed that devices without modern microprocessors remained operational. The aliens' control system, while incredibly advanced, seemed to specifically target technology that relied on digital signals. His hand shook as he connected a vintage radio transmitter to his equipment. "Yuki, find every piece of analog equipment in the building. Anything without digital components." His team scattered, returning with old radios, mechanical calculators, and other obsolete devices. As darkness fell over Tokyo, Hiroshi made his first breakthrough. Using the analog oscilloscope, he could detect patterns in the alien energy field, patterns that suggested it operated on principles similar to modern encryption. The aliens weren't just controlling Earth's technology, they were rewriting its digital foundations. In the distance, emergency sirens wailed as the city's infrastructure continued to fail. But Hiroshi barely noticed, his attention fixed on the steady sweep of the oscilloscope's needle. Within this obsolete technology lay humanity's first real hope of understanding, and perhaps resisting, their technologically superior invaders. He reached for an old rotary phone, one of the few remaining ways to communicate. There were others like him, scientists and engineers worldwide, who would understand the significance of this discovery. The aliens had impressive technology, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed humanity's strength lay in their advanced digital systems, not in their ability to adapt and improvise with whatever tools were available. Kevin Chen shouldn't have been in his grandfather's workshop during the alien occupation, but the 15-year-old couldn't stay in a cramped basement shelter any longer. While his parents slept, he crept up to the familiar space filled with old radio equipment. His grandfather, a lifelong ham radio enthusiast, had passed away months ago, leaving behind a treasure trove of vintage electronics. The workshop's shelves, lined with vacuum tubes, cast long shadows in the emergency lantern's light. Kevin ran his fingers along the dials of his grandfather's pride and joy. A restored 1940s Hallicrafters S40A receiver. He'd spent countless hours here, learning about radio waves and electronics, while other kids played video games. On impulse, he connected the old radio's power supply to their solar backup system. The vacuum tubes warmed up slowly, filling the room with a gentle amber glow. Static crackled through the speaker, the first electronic sound he'd heard since the aliens disabled all modern communications 3 days ago. As Kevin carefully tuned the dial, something extraordinary happened. Among the static, he heard voices. Actual human voices speaking in different languages. The old radio was picking up transmissions that somehow bypassed the aliens' communication blackout. His hands trembling with excitement, Kevin grabbed his notebook and began logging frequencies and times. He recognized Japanese, Russian, and what sounded like Portuguese. Then, through the static, he caught words that made his heart race. Dr. Tanaka's discovery about analog systems. Working through the night, Kevin mapped out a pattern of surviving radio operators worldwide. Using his grandfather's old code books, he managed to decipher enough to understand the crucial message being passed around. Analog technology was immune to alien control. By dawn, Kevin had made contact with 3 other operators using his grandfather's transmitter. 1. A retired radio operator in Buenos Aires helped him establish a rudimentary relay system. Each contact shared what they knew. The aliens couldn't detect or interfere with radio waves produced by purely mechanical means. Kevin's mother found him asleep at the radio desk the next morning. Instead of scolding him, she listened intently to his discovery. Within hours, their basement became an improvised communication hub. Neighbors brought in old radios from attics and garages. Kevin taught others how to operate the equipment, passing on everything his grandfather had taught him. The network grew exponentially. Radio operators from the 1960s space race emerged from retirement. Military veterans familiar with old field equipment joined the effort. Each day brought new connections, new information, and new hope. A week after his first transmission, Kevin received an encrypted message from Dr. Tanaka himself. The Japanese scientist had developed a way to use mechanical computers to analyze alien technology, but he needed help spreading the information. Kevin's network of vintage radio operators became the Resistance's nervous system, connecting isolated pockets of humanity with vital intelligence. His grandfather's workshop was now a command center, coordinating messages between scientists, military personnel, and civilian resistance groups. As Kevin logged another successful relay, he smiled at his grandfather's photo on the wall. The old man had always said that understanding the past was the key to the future. Now that lesson might just help save humanity. Uncle Jimmy Cooper noticed it first while guiding his family through the outback. The Aboriginal ranger had been leading his people away from alien patrols when he saw something peculiar. The crystalline ships never flew directly over certain ancient sacred grounds. They always diverted their path, creating perfect arcs around these areas as if avoiding invisible barriers. He shared this observation with Maria Torres, a geologist who had sought refuge with their group. Maria had been studying mineral deposits in the area before the invasion, and Jimmy's observation sparked a memory. She pulled out her old paper maps, spreading them across the red earth as the group rested in the shade of a rocky overhang. "Look here," Maria pointed to the marked mining sites. "These areas the ships avoid. They're all rich in rare earth elements." She traced a finger along the geological survey lines, matching them with Jimmy's knowledge of the safe zones. The pattern was undeniable. Using an old Geiger counter from her field kit, Maria detected unusual radiation patterns in the minerals. The readings matched frequencies that Kevin Chen's radio network had identified in alien technology. She and Jimmy collected samples, working through the night to test different combinations of local rocks. The breakthrough came at dawn. A particular mixture of minerals created a field that interfered with the aliens' energy signatures. Jimmy recognized some of the stones. His ancestors had used them in ceremonies for thousands of years, believing they held special powers. Now science was proving their wisdom. Maria used Kevin's radio network to spread the news. Similar deposits existed worldwide, often in places ancient cultures had marked as significant. The resistance began mining operations, using hand tools and traditional methods to avoid detection. Every gram of the mineral mixture became precious ammunition in humanity's fight for survival. Within weeks, refugee camps worldwide transformed into makeshift research stations. In Brazil, indigenous guides led teams to mineral deposits deep in the Amazon. Mongolian nomads shared knowledge of deposits in the steppes. Native American tribes pointed researchers to sites their oral histories had preserved. The aliens' response was swift but revealed their vulnerability. When they tried to destroy a mining site in Australia, their energy weapons reacted violently with the mineral deposits, creating a massive feedback pulse that disabled 2 of their ships. The wreckage provided the resistance with their first chance to study alien technology up close. Jimmy's teenage daughter, Sarah, made another crucial discovery while playing with mineral fragments. She noticed that wearing certain stones as jewelry disrupted the aliens' personal detection systems. The resistance began crafting amulets and bracelets, allowing their agents to move undetected through occupied territories. As Maria prepared to transmit their latest findings through Kevin's network, She watched Jimmy teaching resistance fighters traditional methods of finding mineral deposits. The union of ancient knowledge and modern science was creating something new, a way of fighting that the aliens had never encountered. The minerals weren't just weapons. They were proof that Earth itself was fighting alongside humanity. Every stone, every grain of sand that had watched civilizations rise and fall, now held the key to humanity's survival. The planet had provided the tools. It was up to humanity to learn how to use them. Dawn broke over the Amazon rainforest as Helena Santos adjusted her mineral-infused compass. The young botanist had never imagined her knowledge of the jungle's hidden paths would become vital to humanity's survival. She led a small team through the dense undergrowth, their movements masked by the natural sounds of awakening wildlife. Above them, a crystalline ship hummed past. Its sensors swept the canopy but detected nothing. Helena's group wore necklaces made from the minerals Maria Torres had discovered, rendering them invisible to alien technology. Their destination was an abandoned industrial complex that the Resistance had converted into a base of operations. Meanwhile, in the ancient city of Varanasi, Professor Arjun Mehta worked with local craftsmen in a hidden workshop beneath the Ghats. They had transformed the traditional stepwells into Resistance strongholds, using the ancient water systems to cool their makeshift laboratories. The professor's team had discovered that the mineral mixtures, when combined with the sacred waters of the Ganges, created an even more powerful disruption field. Kevin Chen's radio network crackled with activity as Resistance cells worldwide shared their innovations. Japanese technicians reported success in using modified mechanical calculators to predict alien patrol patterns. Korean engineers had developed mineral-based paint that made vehicles invisible to alien scanners. Each group added their own expertise to the growing arsenal of human ingenuity. In the depths of the Paris metro, French resistance fighters converted old railway signals into a warning system. They used the mechanical clicks and clacks of vintage train equipment to send coded messages that the aliens couldn't intercept. The underground networks of major cities worldwide became humanity's secret highways. Helena's team reached their destination as the morning sun filtered through the canopy. Inside the repurposed factory, scientists from 3 continents worked alongside indigenous healers, combining modern chemistry with traditional plant knowledge. They had discovered that certain native plants, when processed using ancient methods, enhanced the mineral's disruptive properties. Message from Sydney. A radio operator called out, "Operation Thunderbird is in position." Similar confirmations arrived from bases worldwide. The Resistance had spent weeks coordinating this moment, using nothing but analog technology and human couriers to avoid detection. Helena checked her mechanical watch, a gift from her grandmother that had become an essential tool in this new world. In precisely 3 minutes, resistance cells across every time zone would launch simultaneous strikes against alien installations. The attacks would use no digital technology, no modern weapons, only the tools and knowledge that generations of humans had crafted and perfected. As the second hand ticked toward the appointed time, Helena thought about how far they'd come. The aliens had expected to find a primitive species dependent on their modern technology. Instead, they found a resourceful civilization that could adapt, innovate, and unite in ways they never imagined. The watch struck the hour. Helena raised her hand, signaling her team to begin. Around the world, thousands of others did the same. The aliens were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their advanced technology. It was their ability to blend the wisdom of ages with the spark of innovation that burned in every human heart. Maya Patel hadn't seen the stars in months. The Mountain View Observatory lay in ruins, but she'd salvaged what mattered most: her research notes from the first night of contact. Working from a makeshift lab in an abandoned subway station, she studied the crystalline ship's energy signatures through a jury-rigged telescope assembled from old camera lenses. "Kevin, are you receiving?" She spoke into the vintage radio set. The teenager's voice crackled back through the speaker, confirming the connection. Maya had been collaborating with the young radio operator for weeks, combining his network's observations with her astronomical data. The ships aren't just collecting sunlight. Maya explained, spreading her calculations across a paper-strewn table. They're using it to maintain their crystalline structure. Each face of their vessels acts like a complex prism. She'd noticed the pattern during the Resistance's coordinated attacks. The alien ships moved sluggishly during overcast conditions. Dr. Tanaka's voice joined the conversation from Tokyo. His team had been analyzing mechanical watch movements that seemed to resonate with alien energy frequencies. Maya-san, the vibrations we detected, they match your light wavelength calculations perfectly. The pieces suddenly clicked together in Maya's mind. She grabbed a small mirror from her emergency kit, catching the beam of her lantern. The ships don't just reflect light. They depend on it. Their entire technology requires perfect light absorption and reflection patterns. Working through the night, Maya coordinated with resistance cells worldwide. Dr. Tanaka converted his mechanical watches into detection devices, using their precise movements to measure alien energy fluctuations. In Brazil, Helena's team discovered certain rainforest crystals that could amplify the disruptive effect. The Resistance began gathering mirrors, prisms, and crystals from every available source. Old telescopes, camera equipment, even costume jewelry. Anything that could bend or reflect light became a potential weapon. Professor Mehta's team in India developed a way to coat the materials with their enhanced mineral mixture, creating devices that could actively interfere with alien technology. Maya tested her theory using a scaled-down model built from salvaged telescope parts. When properly aligned, the array of treated mirrors could create interference patterns that disrupted the alien's energy collection system. The effect was small, but measurable and scalable. "We need more reflective surfaces," Maya broadcasted through Kevin's network. "And we need precise coordinates for every resistance cell." Her plan was ambitious. Create a worldwide network of synchronized reflection points that could turn Earth's atmosphere into one massive interference pattern. The response was immediate. Resistance groups everywhere began positioning mirrors and crystals at strategic points. They used mechanical calculators to determine exact angles, marking positions using the stars themselves as reference points. The aliens, focused on hunting down digital technology, missed the significance of these seemingly primitive preparations. Maya rechecked her calculations one final time. If she was right, humanity was about to turn the aliens' greatest strength into their ultimate weakness. She thought back to that first night at the observatory, when the crystalline ships had appeared like stars falling from heaven. Now, using nothing more complex than mirrors and mathematics, humanity would show these advanced invaders that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most powerful. Operation Daybreak began at sunrise over the Pacific Ocean. Millions of people worldwide stood ready, each holding their piece of humanity's makeshift defense system. Maya watched from her coordination point as the first light of dawn touched the waves, her mechanical watch ticking steadily toward the appointed hour. "New Zealand team in position," Kevin's voice came through the radio. Similar confirmations echoed across the frequencies as the sun's light raced across the globe. In Japan, Dr. Tanaka's network of modified watches began resonating with the approaching alien energy signatures. The crystalline ships hung in the morning sky, unaware of the trap about to be sprung. Helena's teams in the Amazon had positioned massive crystal formations at precise angles, their surfaces treated with the mineral compound discovered in Australia. In the Himalayas, Professor Mehta's group had transformed entire mountainsides into reflective surfaces using thousands of treated mirrors. First light reaching Japanese positions, Dr. Tanaka reported. Maya held her breath as she watched her instruments. The initial reflections began, subtle at first, just a few thousand mirrors catching the dawn light at precisely calculated angles. The alien ships continued their morning patrol, their crystalline surfaces gleaming. Then the second wave began. As the sun rose higher, millions of reflective surfaces activated in sequence, creating a cascading wave of focused light across the atmosphere. The alien ship's energy absorption systems, designed to process normal solar radiation, suddenly faced a synchronized assault of reflected and amplified light. Energy disruption detected, Professor Meta's voice crackled through the radio. The first signs of success. The smallest alien vessels began to show signs of distress, their crystalline surfaces vibrating at unusual frequencies. Maya's calculations had been correct. The ship's dependence on perfect light absorption patterns became their vulnerability. As more reflective surfaces joined the assault, the disruption grew exponentially. The aliens' attempts to compensate only made things worse, their energy collection systems overloading from the irregular light patterns. Kevin's radio network coordinated the global effort with precision that would have been impossible with modern technology. Using only mechanical watches and analog signals, resistance groups adjusted their mirrors to maintain the perfect interference pattern as the Earth rotated. The first major alien ship fell in Singapore, its crystalline structure shattering as it tried to process the overwhelming light assault. Others followed across Asia and Europe as the sun's path triggered more reflection points. The aliens' attempts to escape only drove them into new fields of disrupted light. By the time the sun reached the Americas, the pattern was undeniable. Humanity had turned their entire planet into a weapon, using nothing more complex than mirrors and mathematics. The alien fleet, which had conquered worlds across the galaxy with their advanced technology, found themselves trapped by the very light they depended upon. Maya watched as the massive crystalline mothership over San Francisco began to vibrate, its surface developing spiderweb cracks. She thought of that first night at the observatory, when she'd spotted the strange patterns in the stars. Now, humanity had written its own pattern across the sky, proving that intelligence and innovation could overcome even the most advanced technology. The day wasn't over, but for the first time since the invasion began, the sunrise brought more than just hope. It brought victory. 6 months after Operation Daybreak, Maya stood in the rebuilt Mountain View Observatory, watching a different kind of light show in the sky. The last pieces of crystalline ship debris were burning up in the atmosphere, creating streaks of rainbow light across the sunset. Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted, and yet humanity had emerged stronger than ever. Kevin sat at his grandfather's radio set, which now held a place of honor in the observatory's new communication center. The vintage equipment shared space with salvaged alien technology, a perfect symbol of humanity's new approach to progress. The worldwide network he had built continued to operate, connecting people in ways that modern internet never had. "Message from Dr. Tanaka," Kevin announced, adjusting the dial with practiced ease. "The first hybrid computer is online." In Tokyo, the Japanese scientist had successfully combined alien crystal technology with mechanical computing principles, creating systems that were both powerful and resistant to outside control. Helena's voice joined the conversation from the Amazon research station. Her team had discovered that the rainforest plants which enhanced the mineral compounds could be cultivated worldwide, offering new possibilities for sustainable energy and defense systems. The knowledge of indigenous peoples, once dismissed as primitive, was now helping shape humanity's future in space. Professor Mehta reported from India that the Stepwell laboratories had made another breakthrough. By studying the alien ship's remains, they had discovered how to replicate the crystalline structures using Earth materials. The first human-built vessel incorporating this technology was already under construction in the Himalayan facility. Maya smiled as she made notes in her journal, a habit she'd kept from those first dark days. The aliens had come expecting to find a primitive species dependent on easily controlled digital technology. Instead, they found a civilization that could adapt, innovate, and unite in ways they never imagined. The Earth Defense Academy, established in the observatory's expanded facility, now welcomed students from every corner of the globe. Young minds learned to blend ancient wisdom with new discoveries, ensuring humanity would never again become dependent on any single type of technology. Uncle Jimmy's mineral expertise was taught alongside quantum physics, while traditional navigation methods were studied with advanced astronomy. As twilight deepened into night, Maya joined her colleagues on the observatory's deck. Dr. Tanaka had flown in from Tokyo, and Helena had emerged from her rainforest research station. Professor Meta contributed via Kevin's radio network, his voice clear despite the distance. They gathered to witness a historic moment, the test launch of humanity's first hybrid spacecraft. The vessel rose silently from its hidden base, its crystalline elements catching the starlight just as the alien ships had done months ago. But this ship was different. It represented not conquest, but collaboration. It carried the hopes and dreams of a humanity that had learned its greatest strength lay not in technology alone, but in the combination of wisdom, innovation, and unity. As the ship disappeared into the darkening sky, Maya opened her old research notes from the night of first contact. Prepare, the aliens had warned. They never realized that humanity had been preparing all along, not through weapons or technology, but through their unfailing ability to learn, adapt, and grow stronger together.